The rain was coming down in sheets as I stared out the window of my apartment in Seattle. The Space Needle was barely visible through the gray haze, and the sound of the city was muffled, distant. It matched the way I felt, muted, disconnected. My name is Quentin, and until a few weeks ago I thought I had it all. A good job as a software architect, a comfortable life, and a wife, Imogen, whom I loved more than anything. We'd been married for 12 years, a happy, solid couple, or so I thought. Imogen worked as a marketing director for a large retail chain. She was ambitious, driven, but also incredibly warm and loving. Or again, that's what I believed. Our life wasn't perfect, of course. We had our share of disagreements, the usual ups and downs of marriage. But overall, I thought we were in a good place. We were planning a trip to Italy for our anniversary, talking about maybe finally trying for kids. The future seemed bright. Then a few weeks ago, I started noticing little things. Imogen was working late more often, claiming urgent deadlines and important meetings. She was less affectionate, less engaged when we were together. I chalked it up to stress, told myself not to be paranoid. But the nagging feeling in the back of my mind wouldn't go away. One evening, Imogen said she had to work late. I decided to surprise her, bring her dinner at the office. I knew she appreciated those little gestures. I picked up her favorite Thai food and drove downtown, the rain already starting to fall. When I got to her office building, the lobby was deserted. I took the elevator up to her floor, the silence amplifying my unease. The lights were on in her department, a few people still working at their desks. I walked towards Imogen's office, the takeout container in my hand. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, ready to surprise her, but the scene that greeted me was anything but what I expected. Imogen was locked in a passionate embrace with a man I'd never seen before. His hands were all over her, and she was kissing him back with an intensity I'd never witnessed between us. The takeout container fell from my hand, the sound echoing in the silent office. Imogen and the man pulled apart, their faces flushed with shock and guilt. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. It felt like a punch to the gut, a physical blow that knocked the wind out of me. Quentin, Imogen stammered, her eyes wide with panic. The man, tall and handsome with slick-back hair, stepped forward, a look of defiance on his face. "I can explain," he said, his voice smooth and condescending. "Explain." I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. "Explain what?" "That my wife is cheating on me in her office." Imogen started to cry, her makeup smudging down her face. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It just happened. It just happened." I repeated, incredulous. "After 12 years of marriage, you just happened to be making out with some stranger in your office." The man, whose name I later learned was Barnaby, stepped closer to Imogen, putting a possessive arm around her. "Look, Quentin," he said, "Imogen and I have a connection. You wouldn't understand." "A connection?" I scoffed. "Is that what you call it, a connection? You're breaking up my marriage, you're betraying my trust, and you call it a connection." I couldn't stand to be in that room any longer. The sight of Imogen with this man, the smell of her perfume mingled with his cologne, it was all too much. I turned and walked out, the rain outside mirroring the storm raging inside me. I spent the next few days in a daze, barely eating, barely sleeping. I replayed the scene in my head over and over again, each time feeling the same gut-wrenching pain. Imogen called and texted, begging me to talk to her, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I needed time to process, to understand how my life had been turned upside down in a matter of minutes. Finally, after 3 days of silence, I agreed to meet her. We met at a small coffee shop near our apartment, the same place where we'd had our first date. The irony wasn't lost on me. Imogen looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "And I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that it wasn't planned, it just happened." "That's what you said before," I replied, my voice flat. "But I need more than that, Imogen. I need to understand why. Why would you do this? Why would you betray me like this?" Imogen hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. "I don't know," she said finally. I guess I was bored. Our life had become so routine. I felt like I was missing out on something." "Bored," I repeated, my voice rising. "You cheated on me because you were bored. Is that all our marriage meant to you?" A way to alleviate your boredom? No, Quentin, it's not like that, Imogen said, tears streaming down her face. I love you, I do, but Barnaby made me feel alive again. He made me feel desired, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Her words were like a knife twisting in my heart. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had thrown away our marriage, our future, for a fleeting moment of excitement, for the validation of another man. So what now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What do you want to do? Imogen looked at me, her eyes filled with desperation. I want to fix this, she said. I want to go to counseling to work on our marriage. I want to make things right. I stared at her, searching for any sign of sincerity, any indication that she truly regretted her actions. But all I saw was selfishness, a desire to avoid the consequences of her choices. I don't think I can do that, Imogen, I said finally. I don't think I can ever trust you again. You've broken something inside me, something I don't know if I can ever repair. Imogen started to sob, her body shaking with grief. Please, Quentin, she begged. Don't do this. Don't throw away everything we've built together. But my mind was made up. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering if she was going to cheat on me again. It was over. I stood up, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. I'm sorry, Imogen, I said, but I think it's best if we go our separate ways. I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Imogen sobbing at the table. The rain had stopped and the sun was starting to peek through the clouds, but the world still felt gray, empty. The divorce was messy, as divorces often are. Imogen fought me every step of the way, trying to get as much as she could. She claimed I was being unreasonable, that I was punishing her for a mistake, but I stood my ground. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything after what she had done. During the divorce proceedings, I learned more about Barnaby. He was a serial cheater, a man who preyed on vulnerable women. He had a string of affairs, leaving a trail of broken hearts and shattered marriages in his wake. I couldn't believe Imogen had fallen for someone like that. It made me question everything I thought I knew about her. As the divorce dragged on, I started to rebuild my life. I threw myself into my work, spending long hours at the office. I started exercising again, trying to get back in shape. I reconnected with old friends, people I had neglected during my marriage. One evening, I was at a bar with some friends when I ran into a woman named Mireille. She was a private investigator and she had worked on my divorce case. We had talked a few times during the proceedings, but I hadn't really got to know her. Mireille was smart, funny, and incredibly perceptive. We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. I found myself drawn to her, her strength and her vulnerability. She had been through a tough divorce herself, and she understood what I was going through. Over the next few weeks, Mireille and I started spending more time together. We went to movies, concerts, and hiking in the mountains. I found myself laughing again, something I hadn't done in a long time. She helped me see that I was still capable of love, that my heart wasn't completely broken. One day, Mireille came to me with some information about Barnaby. She had been doing some digging, and she had discovered that he was involved in some shady business dealings. He was embezzling money from his company, and he was using Imogen to cover his tracks. I was shocked. I couldn't believe Imogen had gotten involved in something like that. But then again, I realized I didn't really know her at all. Mireille and I decided to work together to expose Barnaby. We gathered evidence, contacted the authorities, and eventually he was arrested. Imogen was also implicated in the scheme, and she faced serious charges. Watching Imogen being led away in handcuffs was a surreal experience. I felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, anger, and a sense of justice. She had betrayed me, she had cheated on me, and she had gotten involved in criminal activity. She had brought this all on herself. In the end, Imogen was convicted of fraud and sentenced to several years in prison. Barnaby received a much harsher sentence. Their affair had led to their downfall, a karmic retribution for their actions. As for me, I moved on with my life. I continued to work on myself to heal from the pain of the past. I started dating Mireille and we eventually fell in love. She was everything Imogen wasn't: honest, loyal, and supportive. She helped me see that there was still hope for the future, that I could find happiness again. We got married a year later, in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. The sun was shining and the sky was blue. It was a perfect day. a symbol of the new life I had built for myself. Looking back, I realized that Imogen's betrayal was a turning point in my life. It was a painful experience, but it also forced me to grow, to learn, and to become a stronger person. I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I learned that trust is a precious thing, and it should be guarded carefully. I learned that love is not always enough, and sometimes you have to walk away. And I learned that even after the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. I found love again with a woman who truly cherishes me, and I am grateful for every day we have together. Imogen's actions brought pain and heartache, but ultimately they led me to a place of peace and happiness. It's a strange twist of fate, but one I wouldn't trade for anything.